I am Jug-Band of Borg. We have some visitors. Behind Omega, there's 2 more.
We've got a lot of things up there. Well, there's a. Well, you can't really see the new one, but I got Hagan a red panda plushie when we were in Belfast yesterday.
It was necessary.
Belfast. We went to the Christmas market, but
we got a kilo of muffins, and you Americans are all like, muffins are small things, and there's nothing very much happening. It's like size of your fist, bigger than.
No, like a big, huge, like this. Then with like an entire like sweet shop on top.
Yeah, you got a bunch of chocolate and or something else, and then you get like either cookie dough or fudge or various sweets, and basically it's very big, and like it's like a 1/4 of a kilogram by itself.
She got 4. Okay, well, one is mine.
I got 3 to have over several days because I'm not an idiot.
Well, I'm gonna cut mine in half. I'm gonna eat the whole thing at once.
Okay, maybe I am an idiot, but still.
But so, see, we did watch a good one.
Yeah, this was good. This because Christmas barely came into it.
That's true. It's kind of like Christmas is happening in the background, and that's kind of the reason for this, but
yeah,
we're never going to mention Jesus or the meaning of Christmas or Santa Claus.
Yeah, basically it's Jim Henson does a family drama, and it was very good in that way, and I was quite taken with some of the technical wizardry he was doing for making the puppets. Like some bits, but I'm pretty sure he was using top-down marionette puppets, which isn't common for him. And the stuff like the characters are like on boats and stuff, and it's real water and stuff. And the faces are articulating properly, like they got a hand in there. So either they're below the water with their hand up like that, doing the thing,
or it's an animatronic rig,
or it's a very, very good animatronic rig. It's technically very good, and trying to work out what they're doing. So
yeah, so if you don't know, if you're really young and you've never seen it before, Emmet Otter's Jug-Band Christmas stars Emmet Otter, and I just want to let you know that if you ever see a Twitter account that purports to have daily otters, you should follow them, because I did and it wasn't a mistake. And they have lots of otters.
I find it really odd that Emmet Otter, the Otter family, are actually otters. So for these people, your surname is your destiny. So just imagine in this alternate reality what John Hancock did.
There's not humans in this land.
I know, but just imagine, like, because it's still America. So one of their founding fathers has to be called John Hancock. Now, what was his distinguishing feature?
No, it's not your job.
He was a wanker.
It's your species.
Yes, his
there's
species.
There's no wanker species. He's not at least not in North America.
Clearly, founding fathers of the wanker species.
They're not fuzzy. They don't have little buttons.
You know what I'm talking about.
Just saying. But yeah, so no, Emmet Otter lives with his mother, and she's widowed. Apparently, his father was a snake oil salesman, which does not mean a huckster in this case. It means he actually had some oil for oiling snakes, and nobody wanted to buy it, and thus they were poor. I thought that was kind of funny. Like, he wasn't actually a conman. He just really, really, really believed in his vocation to sell snake oil that nobody wanted to buy.
Which is ironic, considering there's at least one snake in this, and he looked like he was stupid enough to buy shit.
Oh, I don't oil myself. Damn. But yeah, so...
Right now, until now, I've been using, olive oil, and people have been trying to fry me.
Ew. There's a restaurant in China that just serves snake. I saw it on Bizarre Foods. I've never eaten snake, though.
I've never eaten snake. However, I do own a necklace somewhere made of a snake vertebra, which I believe you see in one of my episodes of Hagan. The reason I don't wear it often is because it's rather painful to wear because they are spiky vertebrae.
I thought you were going to say the reasons I don't wear it often is I don't know where it is.
It's over at my parents' house somewhere.
All right. But yeah, so basically, Emmet and his mother, Emmet does odd jobs, and his mother is a laundry woman, and that washes clothes for everybody all along the river.
Including a bitch who's a fox.
Yeah, the bitch. Such a bitch.
Vixen.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so basically, they've got nothing. She's pawned literally everything they have to get by.
Except for her son, which is ironic.
And her wash tub, And Emmet has his father's old tools, and so he basically tries to get odd jobs done, and they're in town. They got some errands to do, and, they really have, they're really, really desperately poor. And I was thinking to myself, wow, this is like Trump's America in about, 8, 9 years? Less than that?
8, 9 days.
Yeah. Well, we ain't got no health insurance no more, but at least there's no black people. But wait a minute, aren't my friends up the river black beavers? We don't talk about them.
Well, Ma, ain't we brown?
They are, that's true.
Oh, no.
Everyone is fuzzy in this one.
I'm going to do hate crimes against ourselves, Ma. I'm going to drown myself tomorrow.
Self-adoration.
Oh no.
But,
Very cold to drown myself when the water's frozen.
well, yeah, but otters can swim in very, very cold water because otters live like up in Canada and the what? Like northern Scotland.
Emmet Otter doesn't. He was complaining about the cold before it was snowy.
That's true. Maybe he's just a whiner otter. But yeah, so they're in town and he sees this used guitar and he wants it so much it's $40. But obviously they ain't got 50 cents to rub together.
You see, if they just saved up enough for that guitar and then saved another $10 more, he could have made me request his film and therefore bring more attention to his plight.
But yeah, so while they're in town, this gang of ruffians with a car from River Bottom, which apparently is a larger town at the river delta.
Yeah, it's these are the tough guys because one of them is
a bear,
a catfish.
Oh.
There's
a catfish, a lizard, a snake, a bear, and I think it's a weasel.
Yeah,
all the evil animals,
The catfish in the car, he just stays in the car because going into the music shop and leaving and going hang out with his friends is too dry, so he just stays in the back of the car.
Yeah, and there's another scene where they're on snowmobiles and he's just in a bucket of water being pulled behind. He contributes nothing to this friendship, nothing.
I quite liked that. But the model work on the bear I thought was very impressive and subtle in that they got the movements of a 1950s sort of James Dean movie, bastardly teenage asshole, perfect. I mean, just
with the voice of Cookie Monster.
Yeah, but he's got
literally the voice actor of Cookie Monster.
How do I describe it? If you've seen my videos, Craig Sheffer and Voyage of the Rock Aliens, he's got that sort of body language perfect where it's he's passive aggressive, he wants to break you, but he really can't be bothered to, so he's doing the minimal movement that he can to be as intimidating as possible. And it's really funny.
But so they rollick around town and then leave. And you're oh, I bet that is the gang that they'll have a bust up with at some point. That will be the dramatic tension, that will be the climax. So Emmet's going off with a friend of his, and he's hey, this porcupine friend is hey, have you heard about this big talent show? It's going to be on Christmas Eve, and whoever wins gets $50. And he's $50?
That's enough Emmet, that's enough to request our movie on Hagan Reviews on Patreon.
They're not Southern, though.
That would be so exciting.
They're just old-timey. But so him and his 4 friends are gonna start a band, and they
figure how she'll insult me, Emmet. I'm a porcupine. Maybe she'll call me a hedgehog.
You don't even know what a porcupine. You've never even seen a porcupine in real life.
Well, obviously I have because I'm a porcupine.
I've seen a porcupine in real life.
Yeah, you've never seen a
Several
European hedgehog.
Yes, I have.
Have you?
Yeah, when I first moved here, it was dying at the time. It was on my way to uni. I told your mum. Because she picked me. Remember when I had to go off and get my national insurance number out at least Galvin? Well, I told her about that, and she's was telling me how she used to see them all the time when she was little. They have hedgehogs here in the wild. It's really cool. But no, I've seen a porcupine once in the wild and 3 times in various petting zoos.
Pretty sure I've seen one in the zoo.
I mean, obviously you didn't pet it. That was not. You don't pet the spike.
Spoink.
Yeah, no. It was once it was in a petting zoo, but it was in its little area, snuffling around. And the 2 other times were things were hey kids, everyone into the auditorium for the wildlife show. And
once in Emmet Otter's Jug-Band.
That's not a real, it's a puppet.
No, it's real.
So yeah, so if you're from Europe and you don't know, porcupines are really cool. They're spiky, but they cannot shoot their spines. That's a myth. But the spines in their tail are very loose, so they can flick their tail. And the spikes will end up in you if you get hit by their tail, but they can't shoot their spines.
They're like hedgehogs, but 30% bigger and more metal.
Really long spines, though. But so they figure, we'll split, if we can win, we'll split the money 4 ways. And Emmet Otter's well, if I win, I'll get $12.50. That's good enough for a down payment to pawn our piano back, because he remembered how much his mother loved playing piano. And
$12.50, that's enough for a fish supper at Donaghy's.
Would you stop that? And that's sterling anyway.
We could eat the catfish.
They can catch their own fish. They're otters.
It wouldn't be deep fried though.
She makes pies. Yeah, but no, and they sing a lot of songs, him and his mom, and she sings there's this one.
They're all done by Paul Williams, who, if I remember correctly, is the guy from Phantom of the Paradise, and that was awesome. So good work, Paul Williams. If I'm thinking of the right guy.
Well, the one that she sings for his dad is it one of those old timey mountain hymns where it's isn't it going to be so great when I die? Wow, that beautiful day, that bright shiny morning when I die, it's going to be awesome. Which is a genre of music that really kind of creeps me out. I remember I didn't see it when it came out in the theaters. I did see A Brother Where Art Thou when it came out in DVD.
Oh yeah.
And I really ended up really enjoying it, and because we still haven't had any proof that George Clooney's a horrible person, we can still enjoy his movies.
The
and
film
I got
that
the
arguably
soundtrack for it.
the film that arguably destroyed cinematography as an art form.
But I got the soundtrack, and it's full of those kinds of songs where, like, oh, the bright morning when I die, and then I go up in Jesus and heaven and things, and oh, it's going to be so awesome. I'm not on earth anymore suffering, because my life is suffering, and I tell me my pain, oh my God, my pain, but then I'll be out of pain. I'm like, I don't understand this
We're
music.
the Soggy Bottom Boys. We have a Jug-Band.
Yeah, I don't really understand this whole genre of, gosh, it's going to be great when I die. But, you know, if we get a hard Brexit, maybe we will. But... yeah, so him and his friends go off to make a band, but the thing is, for him to play a jug bass, he's going to have to put a hole in his mother's washboard or wash basin, and that's basically her livelihood. And while this is going on, this muskrat woman who's friends with his mom comes over, and she tells his mom about the contest. She's like, "Oh, you should enter, you know, because you sing really well." And she's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Well, if I did, I could get Emmet that guitar, and I still have $10 left over and stuff." But she's like, "But I can't. I have literally nothing to sell, and I can't go up there in like just one old dress that I have. So I'd have to have a new dress." So she's like, "You know what I could do? I could pawn his father's tool set, you know, but it won't matter because when I win, you know." So basically. This is setting, I mean, the second that this contest was raised, I was like, this is going to set up the Gift of the Magi. And you'd never heard of the Gift of the Magi.
I don't know what the fucking Gift of the Magi is.
Gift of the Magi is a very famous short story by O. Henry.
Now I have to feel terrible because I don't know it's very famous.
No, well, it's a famous American thing, because O. Henry was one of the, he wrote a lot of, like, rags to riches kinds of stories during the you know, like, the Great Depression, you know, and stuff like that. Actually,
did he write the Depression itself?
No. But I think he might have actually started writing before the Great Depression. But it was a lot of, like, manifest destiny and, like, try hard enough and things will work out. But he wrote this one, and it's called The Gift of the Magi. And basically, it's about a young married couple. And it's their first Christmas married. And they are shit poor. I mean, shit poor. Like, you know, selling things to get by. But they're young and they're in love and stuff like that. And the young man, he's working, like, 3 different jobs. And,
Does anyone say, "Young man, you don't need to feel down, young man"?
Just be gay instead. You don't have to buy him a present. But so, he's like, I really, you know, because his wife has this long, beautiful auburn hair, and he's like, I really want to buy her this lovely set of combs that I saw, you know, at the drugstore, and they're so beautiful, and he's like, but I can't afford it. But he has a watch. He has a pocket watch. And I'm sorry, it's a wristwatch that either his father or his grandfather left him. And he decides to pawn his watch to buy the hair combs for her. Now, she is like, I've got nothing to give for him. I know that he'd love a new band for his watch, but what can I do? So she goes, I forget where she goes, but this is like apparently a thing that you could do back in the day. And she goes and she cuts off her hair and she sells her hair to a wig maker.
Oh yeah, that's still done today, but it tends to be, I believe most of the hair for wigs tends to come from India these days.
Apparently, like, you can donate to Locks of Love, but I've heard conflicting things on the internet.
Yeah.
That sometimes it doesn't actually go to where you think it goes.
It'll take it, but I think there's some parts of the world, mainly in Asia, where it's most of that sort of centered.
Didn't know that.
Usually third world type situations.
But yeah, so they both get home on Christmas Eve. And he says, well, I pawned my watch to buy you these combs for your beautiful hair. And she said, well, I sold my beautiful hair to buy you a new thing for your watch. But the point was that the real gift was that the fact that they loved each other so much they were willing to sacrifice the thing that was most dear to them for the other.
Which is ironic, considering this one, they were willing to sacrifice what was dear to their loved one in order to buy...
Well, it's a variation on...
It's actually like an inverse version.
Well, no, like, basically, honey, no, because they both depended on each other's income. So, you know.
If it was based on it...
It was an inverted Gift of the Magi.
Okay. Like, is this a good time to mention that I sold your PS4?
It's right there.
It's a model.
Like, I'm literally looking at it right now.
It's a model. It's very realistic. I spent the money to buy you a realistic recreation of your PS4 so you wouldn't notice. It was so good it plays Assassin's Creed whatever the Greek one is.
Odyssey.
Yes.
I just used your Amazon wish list early. You basically told me what you wanted.
Did you pawn anything of mine to buy stuff?
No, that would be horrible.
Oh, so I'm the terrible one now.
No, but I'm a funded PhD student, so I get a small stipend, so I wouldn't have to pawn anything. But anyway, Muppets. So these two plot lines are converging together, and then the Jug-Band runs into the River Bottom gang, and I was like, oh, now they're gonna fight.
You know, the Jets and the Sharks, but
yeah,
with
like,
actual Jets and Sharks.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, now they're gonna like try to hurt them or do something or bully them, but they didn't. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm sure that this plot point is gonna pay off at some point. So it's Christmas Eve, and everybody gathers, and the boys are kind of upset because the first guy to sings the song that they were gonna sing. They're like, shit, we gotta come up with something else.
It's a bit like the Father Ted episode with My Lovely Horse, but the writer wasn't an avowed transphobe.
Yeah. Or his assistant. This is my assistant tweeting for me. Who's somehow a TERF anyway. No, this is a real thing that happened. Look at
I saw that.
But yeah, so then the mom gets up and sings, and she does a really good job. Everyone's like, ah! And then the boys go on and they sing a song, and everyone's like, oh, that's grand. And they're like, well, that was it, except for some kids that came all the way from River Bottom, and they bring on amps and lighting and professional sound systems, and even
these guys like a set full on, C-list 70s proto heavy metal band.
Kind of like,
it's like proto heavy metal band. It's a bit like it's not like Black Sabbath. It's more like Sorcerer.
They say stuff like, we don't brush our teeth because the toothache just makes us more mean. Kind of.
Yeah.
They're called the Nightmare.
Very, very... let me just say that if there was a puppet version of Stunt Rock, these guys would star in it.
And then they win. Like, the bad guys win. And you think, oh, well, surely someone's going to come up with some rule thing. Or be like, wait a minute, you were the ruffians that trashed the music shop 2 days ago. But no, that's the end. They're out of the movie.
It's basically the same way that Dodgeball was meant to end. With the villains winning and the heroes, the plucky underdogs, losing because logically they weren't as good as the villains.
Yeah, and like one of the judges was like this frog who owns this big restaurant and cafe nightclub on the river, and he's like, oh, everyone thought you did really great, both of you, but it just didn't have that extra something that the Nightmare had. Well, bye, Merry Christmas. And they're like,
lighting.
Yeah,
a catfish dancing in a big fish tank.
And so the mother like, okay, boys, let's get to the river to make our way home. It'll
head down to the river and pray like in Who Brother Where Art Thou.
At least it wasn't like Derry. Let's go to the bridge.
Oh.
But
there's a local euphemism.
Go to the bridge.
Go to the river.
Yeah, go to the bridge, go to the foil, and go to the river.
It means to kill yourself.
There's 3 bridges: the foil bridge, the Craigavon bridge, and the Peace Bridge, and. It's not. We're not making fun of this. Is an actual thing. The suicide rates in the town are very, very high, and not for nothing, Foil Search and Rescue are always pulling people out of the river, both alive and when it's been too late. It's actually really, really horrifically depressing that's what this town is getting known for. Merry Christmas.
If anything,
that's austerity.
Getting for it, it's always been pretty bad like that. I mean, the Foil Search and Rescue been there since as long as
this
I've
is just based off of something that Dr. O'Neill was tweeting about the other day.
Oh, it is actually appreciably getting worse. Okay.
Yeah.
It was already
bad. One of my professors from undergrad, she's actually, I think you could probably call her the North's foremost expert on troubles related PTSD, trauma, and suicide. So she's always on BBC, and she's always in going to Westminster and trying to raise money for mental health and stuff. But
basically all she says in BBC interviews are, things are terrible.
No, she's actually really dynamic. That's probably why she's always on BBC. Because she's like, my research, everyone's like, oh, tell us more. This is the microphone.
She encourages the journalists to do very good noddies. Mm. When you see in a TV interview, you've always got the person, the person listening, even which is usually filmed separately. It's called a noddy.
That's funny.
And there's a walkie, which is where short clip of the reporter walking in before they do the dramatic interview.
Wasn't John Cleese always making fun of those? Because he was the sketch would usually start with him doing something, and it'd be like things and stuff, and then you'd see him walking, and it'd pan back to reveal he's someplace really completely ridiculous.
that might be what it was taking the piss out of, or it might have been something else.
Mm.
But in TV news, they're called walkies and naughties.
There you go. But yeah, so like they're going to the river, and I'm like, I know. They'll see the River Bottom gang who are on their way back to River Bottom, who smashed through the ice with their car or their snowmobile, and they need saving, and they'll give them the no. And I was like, this is actually pretty interesting because media for children, and you'll know this if you watch my psych media show, media for children, especially like, you know, in the middle of the Henson kind of boom, you know, wasn't yet as complex as it is now. You know, this idea that children have to see things very simplistically presented, and the good guys have to win, and the bad guys have to be punished. But the bad guys were never punished. They were actually rewarded. I mean, well, they had talent.
And they
but
weren't
they
really
were
the bad guys. They were just assholes who were a bit rowdy in a music shop. They didn't destroy anything. They didn't steal anything.
But you were meant to believe.
Narratively, they were the bad guys, but they weren't. But
there was a lot of implications. There was a lot of tropes surrounding them that you were meant to think.
Yeah.
These are the bad guys. They're going to bully the good guys, and then the good guys will overcome them in the end and win.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen. So, like, they're all reflecting on the way home, and, you know, Emmett and his mom were like, well, you know what? We should feel really bad because we lost, and we basically, like, now have no means of income whatsoever. But we took a chance, and you know what? Dad would be proud of us. You know? They're like,
you're just as big a failure as I am.
No,
I'm
stop it.
so proud.
Stop it. So then, like, you know, the mom's reflecting, and she's like, you know what? The two songs that we sang, I think they would go good together. Here, boys, come here. I'll start my song, and then you come in with yours. And they actually do go well together, probably because they were written together. So they're just, like, singing on the river on Christmas Eve, you know, and they're in front of the frog's big restaurant, and he comes out, and everyone comes out, they start clapping, and he's like, wow, you know, I know that both of you needed something, but it looks like you just needed each other. And she was like, oh, well, thank you, I'm so glad you liked it. And he's like, how about you come and you'll come and sing at my restaurant? You know, and she's like, will you pay, you know, every time we sing? And he's like, yeah, sure, you can start tonight. I'll even give you free meals, too. And so then you're like, oh, so that's the resolution. That's how it works out, because they didn't win, like, the $50, but now they have a lifeline. Now they're going to be able to get by. And not just Emmett and his mom, but also his three wee friends as well, because, you know, we never find out what their financial situation is. In fact, like, that's the thing, like, everyone in town kind of seems to know that Emmett and his mom are hard up, but nobody ever makes a point about it, making me believe that maybe everyone in the town is hard up. And so...
Except for that fox bitch.
Yeah. Well, no, because she's the mayor's wife.
Yeah, she's very well heeled.
Yeah. So, like, you know, certain people are of means, but everybody else is pretty much like common, like, you know, mountain folk. And I was almost thinking, well, so, like, you know, this is probably, like, how things were, like, in rural areas, like, you know, during the recessions and stuff like that. This is how it's going to be soon in America, with the exception that people will have iPads. And that was kind of very sobering. Like, I mean, we're going to see a remake of this in a few years where, like, you know, well, all I have is Emmett's iPad, the one that he makes all that great GarageBand music with, but I gotta pawn it on eBay. But, I mean, and then I was reflecting on this. Like, at the end, I was like, wow, yeah, this was a Christmas movie where Christmas was basically just the framing device. Like, they wanted to give each other a Christmas present. But that was the sum total of Christmas's involvement.
Yeah, you could surgically remove Christmas from this and you wouldn't really care. You just replace Christmas present with, you know, I love you, mum/son. Present.
Present.
Oh. You looked a bit confused as to what my point was. It's like,
you
don't need a
present.
You don't need an excuse to give a person a present. Like, for instance, I love you, here's a present.
Oh, on my face. Oh, I'm not touching it. I know where that's been. It's a cockhammer. Serves you right. But unfortunately, that was the last good one. Because tonight is the penultimate night. And I used to think that penultimate meant, like, really spiffy, but penultimate means just the one before the ultimate, so the one before the last one. So tomorrow is the grand finale of the Christmasing 2.
I just realized I look like a Sith Lord covered in lights. So I'm like the Christmas Sith.
Hagan, the Christmas Sith. But, and I promise you, this will be one for the record books. So if you can hang in 24 hours or maybe 18 or 19, or depending on whenever I post it on Christmas Eve, and the Christmasing 2 will draw to its close, and I will try the salty licorice alcohol that I have. And we also, when we were at the American Candy Shop in Belfast, picked up white chocolate pumpkin pie M&Ms, and I'm not really sure about this, but we'll try them on camera.
I've never tried pumpkin. I don't want to.
Well,
it's weird and orange.
Pumpkin pie, I don't like pumpkin pie. I don't like its consistency. I think it's nasty, but then I don't like squash. You know, I don't like like that whole thing like, oh, it's spaghetti squash. Make your bolognese out of spaghetti squash. No, it's fucking squash. You're not fooling me. It's not noodles. But yeah, so, I mean, I don't even like the taste of pumpkin spice. I like the spices that go into pumpkin spice.
You're going to have your white card removed, apparently. That's what the internet tells me. It
wasn't a thing when I was a kid. It's only really been a thing the last 10 or 15 years.
I don't even know what the fuck pumpkin spice is.
Pumpkin spice is a variety of...
I don't want to know.
I told you already in the car with your father.
I don't want to.
We were driving to...
I can't hear you over all the lights.
We were driving to Fermanagh.
No.
We went to go see a cave in County Fermanagh. And I explained the phenomenon to my father-in-law. So the secret is technically, you could just buy the ground spices in bulk, mix them together, and use pumpkin spice like flavorings for the entirety of the year. And you just don't have to wait until the autumn. Like, this is something you can do anytime you want.
What's the point of me wearing a crown if you don't listen to me?
Because I'm American. I don't subscribe to a constitutional monarchy.
Neither do the Tories.
That's true.